Single dad CEO discovers amazing connection at party. Daughter asks, can she stay forever? Jason had always believed that love could conquer all, but as the door to the upscale networking party swung open, he felt that belief wavering. His heart raced, uncertain whether he belonged among the polished suits and expensive colognes wafting through the grand ballroom. But he steeled himself, glancing down at his daughter, Mia. The way her bright eyes sparkled with curiosity reminded him why he was pushing to succeed. He took a deep breath and stepped inside, gripping her small hand tightly. In a room brimming with laughter and the clinking of fine glassware, Jason couldn't shake the discomfort that clung to him. Surrounded by cutting-edge devices and glossy brochures, he was painfully aware of his own faded sneakers and wrinkled shirt. Yet there was Mia, her giggle and effervescence cutting through an atmosphere thickened by ambition and competition. "Is this where you make magic, Daddy?" she asked, her excitement palpable and infectious. Before he could answer, Mia darted off to explore. He watched her enveloped in childlike wonder, a sharp contrast to the carefully curated glamour surrounding them. That's when he spotted Mr. Thompson, an elderly veteran, sitting quietly in a corner. His face was etched with lines of experience and his smile was warm like a summer's day. They began to chat, sharing stories of life's struggles, resilience, and the importance of empathy. It felt good to connect, but as Jason sipped his drink, the conversation shifted. A rival businessman sneered at him, "What's a single dad doing here, struggling to keep a startup afloat?" The words cut deep, each syllable laced with arrogance. Jason's heart sank, and he wrestled with anger and shame. Would he be forever judged by his financial status? Just then, he heard Mia's laughter again, light and free, mingling with Mr. Thompson's gentle chuckles, and then it happened. "Can you stay with us forever?" Mia asked, her voice slicing through the tension. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, eyes darting toward her, as if her innocent plea had exposed a raw nerve. Jason froze, a mix of pride and fear swelling inside him. Here was his daughter, untainted by prejudice, standing boldly against the wall of societal standards that divided them. The young and the old in the room shuffled uncomfortably, grappling with their assumptions. As Mr. Thompson's gaze met Jason's, together they understood that Mia's question encapsulated something much larger than her innocent desire. It challenged the status quo and the biases they faced. Jason's racing heart found an anchor in that moment. Could this actually shift something in this room filled with potential investors? Was Mia's innocence powerful enough to make them reconsider their judgments? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just like that, the stakes were raised. Jason felt the weight of his community's judgment, but he also felt the power of love and the unbreakable bond he had with Mia. In that moment, he knew what he stood for: integrity, compassion, and the strength of family. With the room holding its breath, he realized he had an opportunity not only to defend his worth but to redefine what connection really meant. Would he rise to the challenge and fight for a world where love and integrity triumphed over wealth and status? The question hung unanswered, thickening the air with anticipation as he prepared to face the room that night. The silence in the room felt heavy, almost suffocating, as people's eyes darted between Jason and Mia, their astonishment palpable. Jason's heart raced, each beat echoing the weight of his daughter's innocent words. Could they see the truth behind her question? As he looked around and found expressions ranging from surprise to discomfort, he felt a flicker of determination surge within him. "Can she stay forever?" Mia repeated, tilting her head in innocent confusion as if the adults needed further explanation. Her small hand still clutched his, providing warmth and strength. Jason glanced at Mr. Thompson, who offered an encouraging smile. "Children have a way of cutting through the nonsense," Thompson said softly, though the words had a weight that resonated. Jason's mind whirred, processing everything. Would this moment become a turning point, not just for him and Mia, but for everyone in the room? He straightened up, pulling Mia closer to him. Mia, sweetheart, sometimes our greatest strengths come from being different, he said, his voice steady. This is a world that often values success by the size of a bank account, but it's much more than that. It's about heart and how we treat one another. The room felt a little less harsh at that moment. It was almost as if a cloth had been draped over the sharp edges of judgment. Jason saw a few nods. Some of the younger professionals were captivated by Mia's unfiltered joy. The elderly crowd, including Mr. Thompson, seemed to warm up, perhaps remembering their own youthful innocence. Why can't she stay forever? A young woman asked from the crowd, her features softening. She seems to make things brighter. The warmth in her voice gathered nods from those nearby. Yes, chimed in another person, a man who had been watching quietly. It's refreshing to hear truth unvarnished by adult cynicism. For the first time that evening, Jason felt the flicker of hope burgeoning within him. The discussion shifted. Attitudes began to thaw as stories floated around, tales of vulnerability, connection, and the need for authenticity in a commercial world often marred by ambition. He realized he wasn't alone. Mia leaned up closer to him, her blonde hair brushing against his cheek. Daddy, can we tell them about our lemonade stand? She whispered. Jason chuckled softly, touched by her enthusiasm. Actually, that's a great idea, he said, drawing in a breath to share their little adventure. The genuine laughter it inspired cut through the veneer of pretense that had surrounded them all night. With Mia's stories of selling lemonade to their neighbors, he painted a picture of joy, hard work, and the bonds they created as father and daughter. As the crowd began to talk, share, and relate their own stories, Jason felt a shift. He wasn't merely defending his role as a dad or a businessman, he was part of a larger narrative that included everyone in that ballroom. The lines that separated them began to blur. This engagement was greater than success on paper. It was a celebration of community, but as the conversation deepened, Jason hesitated. Could this open dialogue truly change not only his destiny but also how others viewed single parents? He could feel the rush of possibility swelling around him, even as he worried his startup may still not measure up in the eyes of seasoned investors. No sooner had his thoughts drifted than he spotted that rival businessman lurking at the edge, a scowl on his face. Jason acknowledged him with newfound resolve. What would it take to extend this moment beyond just words? Would he be willing to forge connections that transcended monetary value? Feeling the pulse of new beginnings in the air, Mia tugged at his sleeve, reminding him that in that moment, they had already achieved something monumental. What would happen next? As the conversation crescendoed, Jason looked around to meet eyes that seemed to spark with opportunity. But just then, the rival businessman stepped forward, a smirk on his lips. So, Jason, are you really willing to let your daughter help make decisions for your company? Jason felt the heat rise within him. Would he succumb to that negativity, or could he turn the tide once more in favor of integrity? The question hung there, charged with tension, as all eyes turned back to him. Would he stand firm in his truth, or would fear cause him to falter now when it mattered most? Jason felt a wave of warmth and strength push through him as he gazed at Mia. Her innocent eyes shone with belief, and in that moment, he knew he had to stand his ground. That's exactly what I plan to do, he said, letting his confidence flow into his voice. Mia's involvement isn't just a whim, it's a testament to the values I cherish. In our family, collaboration and heart are what drive us. A tangible silence fell over the crowd, the whispers of judgment muted for the time being. Slowly, nods of agreement began to radiate from different corners of the room. Behind him, Jason could feel Mia's small fingers still wrapped around his, providing him an anchor. The rival businessman took a step back, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. You'd really let a child influence your decisions? He challenged, indignation creeping into his tone. Absolutely. Children see the world clearly. They remind us of what really matters, Jason shot back, his heartbeat steady, bolstered by Mia's presence. He remembered their lemonade stands, the joy it brought them, and how simple connections made a difference in their little community. A voice came from the back. "He's right, you know. I wish I'd had that kind of support growing up." It was Mr. Thompson, his old eyes sparkling with conviction as he relayed a personal story of his own, the night spent in his father's workshop, just a child learning about machinery and dreams. "Sometimes," Jason continued, looking around the room, "the conventional way of doing things needs to be challenged. We're in a time when heart and connection are everything. It's what the world needs more of." Slowly, the atmosphere transformed, the initial skepticism dissipated like fog in sunrise. Attendees began to share their own thoughts, opening up about life choices and appreciating the little things with their families. "I once took my daughter to a local animal shelter instead of the usual office meeting," a woman said, her voice trembling slightly. "It changed everything, gave me a sense of community I never had before." Mia's eyes sparkled, oblivious to the impact she had caused. She leaned closer to Jason, her small body brimming with excitement. "Daddy, can we help people like that?" Jason smiled down at her, feeling a surge of pride. "Yes, sweetheart. We can make a difference. Just like we did with our lemonade." There was a lightness in the air now, a feeling of collective optimism growing among them. Jason had become less of a single father burdened by responsibilities and more of a man determined to challenge the norms that stifled creativity and connection. But just as he reveled in the warmth of the moment, he noticed the rival businessman lurking, his scowl returning, whispering to the people beside him. Part of Jason worried, wondering whether their change of heart could be fragile. Then suddenly, a voice broke through the din. "If Mia is contributing, then maybe you should ask her what she thinks often." It was the young woman who had first spoken, a teasing smile playing on her lips. Laughter erupted again, creating a ripple of camaraderie that bolstered Jason's resolve, but as the revelry continued, he couldn't shake the feeling that this open conversation was only the beginning. His gaze dripped back to the rival businessman, who now seemed to be plotting his next move, a challenge hanging in the air. Challenge me as a father? Jason thought, pondering the depth of what was now at stake. Would this newfound connection endure when faced with real opposition? Would he be able to maintain his vision while community support thrived? The room vibrated with anticipation, as the night unfolded and Jason found himself at the precipice of a chance to redefine not just his role, but the essence of what it meant to be a family man in business. What awaited him on this path? Would he rise above the outside pressures or risk losing everything he had built? The mood was electric as the night wore on, excitement mingling with uncertainty in perfect balance. The possibilities lay before him, and Jason felt the pulse of determination thrumming louder than ever. But would he be ready to face whatever came next? Jason's heart raced as he tried to absorb the gravity of the moment surrounding him. Every face in the room was alive with expression, some smiling, some contemplative. It felt like a live wire of collective emotion, ready to spark. Yet, there was still a shadow just beyond the festive atmosphere, an undertone of tension lurking with the rival businessmen hovering nearby. His eyes darted around as if searching for weakness, but Jason refused to give in to fear. He felt Mia squeeze his hand tighter, a gesture of quiet confidence that made him stand a little taller. "Now that we're sharing, who else wants to talk?" Jason said, his voice calm, inviting. It was important to him that this wasn't just about him or Mia, it was about starting a dialogue, a connection. Another voice rose, this time from a corner where a shy man in a plaid shirt leaned forward. "I can relate. I used to let my son dictate how we spent our weekends, and it led to the best experiences until I got too wrapped up in my own schedule." "Exactly," Jason replied, positive energy radiating. "It's easy to forget what matters when we're caught up in life's demands." Mia looked up at him, her eyes gleaming. "Like strawberry picking?" she asked, her innocent voice cutting through the heavy tension like a ray of sunlight. Every person in the room chuckled, including Jason. "Right. Exactly like strawberry picking." He turned to the attendees. When was the last time you let loose and embraced something simple and fun? One by one, stories began to unfold. Memories of family game nights, impromptu picnics, neighborhood barbecues, but underneath it all was a shared realization of how lives had become entangled in the rush of adult responsibilities. As stories flew around, the air thickened with a sense of unity, warmth spreading like a favorite blanket. People were thinking deeply, shifting away from what they would lose if they stepped out of their comfort zones to what they might gain. Jason spotted the rival businessman talking in a low voice to several other attendees, again his tight jaw and narrowed eyes indicating he felt cornered. It was a reminder for Jason that while their gathering flourished, doubt still surged like tides in the back of his mind. The relative peace of the moment felt delicate that he cleared his throat, taking a chance. "Mia, I think it's your turn." He crouched a bit to meet her eyes, the room falling into a curious hush. "Really?" Mia looked up, surprise etched across her little features. "Yes. You have wonderful ideas." Jason felt encouraged, even as the businessman shifted uncomfortably, casting glances that hinted at impending chaos. With newfound confidence, Mia stood up slightly, shifting on her feet. I like helping people," she announced. "Like when we gave lemonade to our neighbors after they were sad." Her declaration echoed in the room like a bell, ringing in purity and sincerity. The soft smiles turned warm, almost contagious, a gentle wave of applause followed. But amidst the enthusiasm, Jason noted that the man was no longer lurking but was instead approaching them quickly. Jason's breath hitched for a moment. Would he undermine this beautiful moment? Just as he was about to speak, the businessman reached them with a cocky grin plastered across his face. "What a charming little girl you have, Jason," he drawled, looking down at Mia. "But tell me, sweetheart, does your daddy always make decisions based on what you want?" Jason's protective instincts flared. "Stop right there." The air thickened with tension, hearts beating faster, eyes wide with anticipation. The laughter from earlier faded as the crowd turned to watch, sensing a storm brewing on the horizon. The moment hung, suspended and fragile, as Jason prepared for whatever challenge lay ahead. Would he be able to stand firm for Mia, his family values, and the connection they had sparked? The room felt alive with a new electricity as the stakes increased. Would this confrontation pull them apart or bind them closer together? The atmosphere was thick with possibility as Jason readied himself to face the man who dared challenge not only him but everything he believed in. What would the outcome be when hearts collided? Would the evening end in triumph or chaos? Jason's voice trembled as he took a step forward, his body taut with tension. "You don't get to speak to her like that." The words spilled out with a force he didn't know he had, echoing in the charged silence. Mia looked between her father and the man, her eyes wide like saucers, unsure of the unfolding drama. Jason felt the weight of her gaze on him, her innocence cutting through the rising conflict. He couldn't let her see him break. The businessman's smirk faded, replaced by a calculating look. "Is that so? A little overprotective, aren't you?" "All I meant was that kids often have their heads in the clouds." He dismissed Mia with a flick of his wrist, as if waving away an annoying fly. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Some folks shifted uneasily, while others leaned in, captivated by the standoff. Jason's heart raced, but he focused on Mia's face, the way she subtly clung to his side, grounding him. "No, it's not about being overprotective. It's about respect," he shot back, his voice firmer now. "You don't get to belittle her or me." With that, a ripple of applause broke out from a few among the attendees, emboldening him. Jason glanced around, and he could see faces nodding in agreement, as if they had just realized the importance of standing up for each other. "Respect comes from understanding, Jason," the businessman replied, attempting to regain control of the conversation. "And this little girl?" He leaned closer to Mia, making her squirm slightly. "She'll learn the hard way that it's not all about what she wants." "Don't you dare speak to her," Jason warned, taking a protective step forward, his jaw clenched. She's not a bargaining chip in your game. We're not here to play by your rules. Mia tugged at his arm, pulling him back slightly. Daddy, it's okay, she whispered, her innocent words cutting deeper than Jason realized. She was caught in a whirlwind of adult conflict, and he wanted to shield her from all of it. But that wasn't the answer, was it? Jason inhaled sharply, feeling the tension around him like an elastic band stretched to its limit, ready to snap. Mia, you are amazing just as you are. Remember that. He knelt to her level, his gaze softening. We're here to share, not to fight. But we also stand for kindness, right? There was a quiet moment, a pause where the world seemed to hold its breath. Mia's face brightened as she nodded vigorously. Right. Like when we shared lemonade. Her voice rang out, breaking the silence, and a few people chuckled, lightening the mood just a bit. See? Jason said, allowing himself a small, proud smile. That's what it's all about, finding connection, community, and kindness. That's what we choose. But that spark of hope was quickly snuffed out as the businessman regained his composure. How noble, Jason. But you'll need more than just kind words in this world. He paused, glancing around the crowd, a glimmer of challenge in his eyes. Let us see how long that idea holds up when the stakes get real. A shiver ran through Jason as he realized this battle was about more than just words, it was about his very beliefs, his daughter's future, and the integrity he stood for in front of everyone. Maybe it's not just about winning or losing, Jason shot back. It's about making something better than we found it. The businessman laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the warmth of the gathering. Let us see, shall we? As tension crackled, and several pairs of eyes filled with uncertainty, Jason steeled himself. He had to protect not just Mia, but a vision of a shared world, one where kindness mattered above all else. Would he be able to bridge the gap amid this brewing storm, or was he setting himself up for the biggest challenge yet? Jason's heart raced again, filled with determination as he faced the room. What kind of future did he want to create for Mia? Before he could ponder further, another unexpected voice broke through, drawing attention back to the crowd. Wait. I have something to say. What would they reveal, and how would it change everything? The room fell silent as the voice cut through the tension like a knife. Jason turned, trying to pinpoint its source. A woman in her mid-30s stepped forward, her eyes filled with an earnest sincerity. The crowd shifted, anxious for a sign that could brighten the moment. Please, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I think we all need to remember what this is about. She glanced around at the faces in the crowd, searching for connection. We're here to celebrate community, to support one another. None of us come from a perfect place, but we all strive to understand each other a little better, don't we? Jason sensed the shift. The weight lifted slightly as the tension released its grip. Mia pressed against him, her small hand squeezing his. Can we listen, Dad? She asked, her tone sweet and hopeful. The woman continued, her confidence growing. Jason is right about kindness. We should uplift each other, especially our children. They're listening. She looked directly at Mia, her expression softening. You have the courage to stand up for your beliefs, my dear. Don't ever lose that. Mia beamed, momentarily shifting the spotlight off the confrontation. Jason felt a swell of pride as he watched her face light up with the small compliment. Children often understood life's complexities in the purest terms. The businessman's expression hardened again, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. A touching sentiment, he retorted, attempting to regain his footing. But tell me, what does kindness do when faced with real adversity? The world is harsh and unforgiving. Kindness is not a weakness, the woman answered firmly, stepping further into the conversation. It's a strength, a power that can change hearts and minds. And our children need to see that strength in us today and every day. Jason felt the momentum shifting, the crowd rallying toward the woman's message. And then, something unexpected happened. A man in the back stepped forward, emboldened by the atmosphere. You know what? I agree. My daughter faced some tough times because of bullies at school, and it was kindness that made the difference. She didn't fight back with fists, she offered friendship. It turned it all around. Murals of laughter erupted, and murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The businessman's face darkened, caught off guard as others began to share their own stories of compassion overcoming adversity. Mia looked up at Jason, her eyes wide with wonder. Is it true, Daddy? Can kindness really help? Jason knelt down so they were eye level, taking a moment to collect his thoughts. Absolutely, sweetheart, he replied with certainty. Kindness brings people together. And sometimes, it's the best weapon we have. He could feel the warmth in Mia's grip as she took a deep breath, absorbing the words as if they were magic. For the first time, Jason truly believed that this gathering could turn into something more, something beautiful amid chaos. Let us show him. Someone called out from the back, and suddenly, people were getting up. More affirmations sprang forth, voices intertwining, a tapestry of shared experiences and resilience building upon itself. The businessman looked increasingly isolated, anger simmering beneath his facade. As Jason rose, scanning the faces sharing encouragement, he felt hope flood through him. Yet buried beneath that hope loomed the uncertainty of how long this energy would last. Would they all carry this kindness beyond the moment? Then Mia turned to him, her tiny voice cutting through his thoughts. Can I tell them about our lemonade stand? Jason smiled at her enthusiasm, as warmth radiated from his heart. Of course. He felt the spark ignite again, knowing that this moment was part of the journey, a shared adventure into understanding, acceptance, and love, but the businessman's laughter echoed back, harsh and derisive. Enough of this foolishness. You're setting your daughter up for disappointment. She'll thank you one day by realizing the truth. Just as Jason opened his mouth to respond, he noticed another figure entering the room. Someone unexpected. The newcomer's presence shifted the energy yet again. Who were they, and what new twist would they bring to this escalating situation? The figure stepped into the room, and Jason's heart skipped a beat. It was Claire, an old friend from his college days. The kind of friend who made everyone feel seen and heard. Her vibrant energy lit up the space, even as the tension still hung like a heavy fog. Jason felt a surge of hope. Did I miss something? Claire asked, her warm smile radiating like the sun breaking through clouds. The crowd, somewhat disjointed moments before, turned its attention to her. It was the kind of diversion everyone needed. The businessman's sharp expression softened momentarily, replaced by an uncertainty as Claire walked further into the room. Claire! Jason called out. You've come at just the right time. Ignoring the unfolding drama, Claire scanned the room, noticing the mixture of passion and frustration dance in the air. Looks like quite the debate. What's going on? Kindness, Mia chimed in, her excitement bubbling over. We're talking about how we can be nice to each other, even when things get tough. Claire crouched down to meet Mia's gaze. Such a smart girl you are. Kindness is like super glue, isn't it? It sticks us together when things get sticky. Mia giggled, her small hand pointing to Claire. You should tell everyone that. Let us hear it then. Claire encouraged. She stood up again, turning toward the crowd, her voice strong and clear. Maybe we should share our best stories of kindness. Show that it does indeed matter, no matter how hard life gets. Jason watched as Claire's perspective took hold. Even the businessman looked momentarily rattled by her approach, now stuck between a room filled with rising spirits and the sharpness of his own skepticism. One by one, people began to step up to the front, sharing personal stories of kindness. My son once shared his lunch with a classmate who forgot theirs, a woman shared, her voice shaking slightly with emotion. That kid hadn't smiled in weeks. It changed everything for him. Another person followed. I always donate to the local shelter. Last month, I met a single mother who was trying to make ends meet. We are now friends. She has taught me so much about resilience. Jason could feel the room transform. Claire beamed at Mia and then returned to Jason with a knowing glance. She must have sensed the mix of hope and uncertainty weaving through him. He appreciated her presence, a soothing balm amidst the emotional storm. Just then, the businessman attempted to interrupt. But what if no? Claire pointed a finger playfully in his direction, cutting him off. This is not a time for what-ifs. It's a time for experience. For connection. Isn't that why we're all here? The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. Jason felt a wave of exhilaration. The atmosphere changed once more, it was filled with laughter, stories, and shared understandings. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, Mia clutched Jason's hand tighter. Can we always be this happy, Daddy? Her question came with the innocence only a child could encapsulate. An ache of longing filled his chest. He wanted nothing more than for this moment to last forever. He looked at Mia, then back at Claire, and the energy of the room drew him in deeper. Then a soft voice emerged from the back, the tone mournful, but what about those who can't feel kindness? The ones lost in darkness? Jason's heart sank. He rotated to face the origin of the voice, a young woman standing against the wall, her eyes glistening with tears. In an instant, the room shifted again. Would they find a way to reach her? Would kindness extend to those in despair? The next moment would determine not only their connection but the very essence of the community they were attempting to build. Jason felt the tension prickling the air, the laughter that had just filled the room now turning fragile. He turned his gaze to the young woman, her face a canvas painted with sorrow. She stood apart, her arms crossed, as if trying to block out the light surrounding her. "What is your name?" Claire asked softly, stepping toward the woman. Her voice was gentle, inviting, coaxing. "Lila," the woman replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The sound trembled as it reached them, like a fragile leaf in the wind. Claire nodded, her expression empathetic. "Lila, would you like to share what you're feeling?" Lila hesitated, her eyes darting between the faces in the room, a mix of them peering with concern and warmth. I just don't understand how kindness helps when it feels like the world is against you," she said, her voice unwavering but laced with doubt. "Not everyone has friends to share their lunches with. Not everyone has happy stories to tell." Murmurs of understanding rippled through the crowd. Several faces reflected their own battles, memories of times when kindness seemed absent. Claire, however, remained steady. "But Lila, we're here to listen. Sometimes sharing our stories, even the painful ones, creates space for kindness to grow. It can be a ray of hope for someone else." Jason felt his heart swell. The way Claire navigated that heavy moment with grace and authenticity felt like watching a dancer move seamlessly through a storm. Yet, beneath that pride came a fierce desire to protect his daughter and, even Lila, from despair. Mia squeezed Jason's hand again, her eyes wide, absorbing every word. "But kindness can help people find friends, right? Like you, Daddy?" Her innocent question hung in the air, a beacon of truth. The room held its breath, waiting for Jason's response. He took a steadying breath, recalling his own struggles, the friendships that had provided refuge during life's storms. "Yes, Mia," he replied slowly, his voice steady with emotion. "Kindness leads us to each other. It can change lives. It's not always easy to see, especially when someone feels trapped in darkness, like Lila. But that doesn't mean we should shy away from it." Lila glanced up, her eyes meeting Jason's. A flicker of something was it hope traced across her features. "If you're feeling lost," Jason continued, "please know that you're not alone. We all have our battles. It's okay to feel what you feel." Mia stood tall next to him. "And you can come to play with us. We can be friends." Jason chuckled lightly despite the gravity of the moment. Laughter, even from a child, can light the darkest corners. Lila's lips curved slightly, and for the briefest moment, it looked like the weight lifted, even just a little. Encouraged by Mia's spirit, the surrounding attendees began to share their own moments of struggle, of darkness, and how kindness had been a guiding light. It was an outpouring, a tapestry of stories weaving into a whole community narrative, connecting through shared humanity. Claire glanced at Jason, and he could feel the warmth radiating between them, simmering with unspoken words. And then the businessman, who had been silent for so long, finally spoke. Maybe kindness isn't just a nice idea. Maybe it's a necessity, something we all need. His admission resonated, sparking a fire of new connections. As Lila stared into the sea of faces, Jason saw a shift within her. A softness, a glimmer that said she was starting to believe, however tentatively. Maybe the kindness that felt so distant could be part of her life too. With smiles brightening the mood again, Claire turned to Mia and Jason with a hopeful glint in her eyes. We've only just begun. The more we share, the more we heal. Imagine how many people we can reach together. The crowd buzzed with enthusiasm, building to a swell of laughter and cheer. Jason's heart raced, feeling the bonds of community tighten, a new unity forming that he never expected. But just as they began to lift the heaviness, a voice pierced through the jubilant noise, the calm, persuasive voice of a stranger at the door. Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear. Are you really saying that kindness can change everything? Every head turned slowly. Who was this new player on the field? And could their arrival spell a new chapter for those already gathered? The atmosphere thickened with possibility. The stranger stepped into the room, the laughter dying down to a whisper as everyone focused on him. Clad in a simple navy blazer and jeans, his presence somehow commanded attention without shouting for it. His dark hair framed a face that seemed aged beyond its years, deep lines marking his brow. What do you mean, kindness can change everything? He repeated, this time more pointedly. It was a question that sparked the kind of curiosity that ignited the room once more. Claire stepped forward. We believe that when people share their stories, especially the tough ones, it creates a safe space for kindness to flourish. It helps us connect. The man scrutinized the crowd, eyes sweeping over the faces visible in the dim light, maybe searching for something more profound. But can it really make a difference? He challenged, and though his tone wasn't harsh, there was a weight to his words. Jason felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Was this man here to undermine what they were trying to build? Mia, sensing the shift, tugged on Jason's sleeve. Daddy, maybe he just needs to hear a story too. Her innocence was a spark of light, and Jason couldn't help but smile at her earnestness. Maybe so, Mia, Jason said, his voice gaining confidence. Everyone has a story. Why don't we share one more? It can show how powerful kindness really is. A moment passed, and laughter began to bubble back to the surface, breaking the tension. One of the attendees, an older gentleman with a silver beard, stood up. I'll go first, he said, clearing his throat. When I lost my wife, I felt like I was drowning. It was my neighbor, a young woman with a smile that could light up the darkest days, who brought me soup and sat with me. That act of kindness pulled me back. The man's voice cracked with emotion, yet the crowd listened intently, nodding their heads in empathy. Encouraged, another person, a young artist, shared how a community program helped revive her dreams. I was feeling invisible, she admitted. But the people there kept showing up, kept believing in me. Their kindness lifted me up. As the stories continued, Jason could see Lila's expression warm, her walls steadily crumbling. It was like watching the sun break through a thick fog. She stepped forward, her voice steadier now. I've been through some dark times too. But maybe I haven't given kindness a real chance. There was a hint of bravery in her eyes, flickering like a flame. The stranger watched in silence, his expression shifting as those around him opened up. Jason felt his heart swell again. This was what they were fighting for, real connection. With each shared story, the atmosphere expanded, becoming more vibrant. Jason glanced at Claire, who stood proudly, a soft glimmer in her eyes. She was right, this was just the beginning. Mia's hand shot up. Can I tell a story? Jason chuckled softly. Of course, sweetheart. Okay. Mia stood before everyone proudly. Last week, I saw a little boy at the playground who was sad because he lost his favorite ball. I gave him my ice cream to cheer him up. It was all melty, but he smiled. Laughter erupted in the room, light breaking through as Mia spoke. The stranger's lips curved into a slow smile for the first time. See? Claire said to him, her voice bright. That's the kind of kindness that can ripple out into the world. As the laughter faded, the stranger took a step forward, his eyes shining. You're right, maybe kindness is woven deeper into the fabric of our lives than I expected. But just then, someone else chimed in, but what happens when we face a moment that's too big, too messy for kindness to tackle? Everyone turned toward the newcomer, heartbeats quickening, curious about where this thread might lead. Would fear of despair shatter the fragile connections they were building? Jason held his breath, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. Lively chatter and laughter filled the air, yet beneath the harmony hung an unspoken question: could kindness really face down life's harshest realities? Balancing on this razor's edge, Jason felt the collective heartbeat of the room, a rhythm that pulsated with shared vulnerability. Among the attendees, Lila stood tall, overcoming one more layer of her hesitation. I know it sounds lovely, she began, her voice finding strength in the gathering, but what about grief? Or betrayal? Can kindness penetrate those deeper wounds? The atmosphere thickened, the room wrapped in tender silence. Each person felt the weight of her words, as if they resonated with their own scars. Claire stepped into the spotlight again, her presence grounding. Grief is a heavy load. Kindness isn't about erasing pain, it's about bearing witness to it. Supporting each other through it. She offered a reassuring smile, encouraging Lila with her gaze. As Lila considered Claire's response, Jason's heart swelled with hope. Remember Mia's story? He said, looking over at his daughter, whose innocent glow lit up the edges of the room. It's not just about the big things, he continued, but those small acts of love that matter most. Every kindness we share can create pockets of light, even in darkness. Kindness starts with one small gesture. I want to sprinkle kindness everywhere. Mia exclaimed, her little voice ringing out. Like fairy dust. Her exuberance ignited laughter again, and Jason marveled at how a simple wish could uplift the spirit of the room. An idea sparked inside Jason. Let's put our kindness into action. Let's brainstorm ways we can show kindness in our own backyards. How can we reach those who need it? The room buzzed with energy, discussions bubbling up like effervescent soda. Ideas flowed: community gardens, volunteering at shelters, or hosting gatherings for those feeling isolated. Voices rose, people leaning in closer to one another, sharing the seeds of connection. Lila caught the enthusiasm, her eyes brightening. I've never thought about joining my local outreach group. I'd love to help others. Her words flowed like a droplet transforming into a spring, changing the landscape of her outlook. Others echoed her ideas. This was about more than words, it was about weaving kindness into the fabric of their lives. Jason felt the shift within himself too. He wasn't merely a single dad with a startup anymore, he was part of a community reborn in hope. Each person in the room cast aside their individual struggles for collective purpose. It was beautiful, a transformation born from heart to heart. Just then, the stranger with the navy blazer spoke again, his tone softer now. If we create pockets of kindness, perhaps we can make those moments of despair bearable. Maybe together, we can build bridges that lead to healing. His acknowledgement of the power of community changed the entire dynamic. Conversations flowed with renewed energy, a vibrant tapestry of hope weaving together right before their eyes. As the night wore on, Jason stole glances at Mia, her delighted expression sparkling under the gentle lights. She showed him that every effort mattered, that even small acts could leave lasting impressions. Maybe the evening had defied the doubts that followed him, with new bonds forming in every corner of the ballroom. Jason thought of his purpose, of Mia's laughter and joy. They didn't just change the room for themselves, but for everyone within it. And as he surveyed the gathering, hope surged through him like fresh spring rain. As the discussions turned into plans, Jason felt weightless. This night was only the beginning, it would echo beyond these walls. No longer burdened by judgment or fear, they had emerged united, stronger and willing to extend kindness into their worlds. With his family by his side, each story of connection reinforced their journey. This is what it means, he realized, to redefine strength not through money or success, but through love and acceptance. And in that moment, the faces around him shifted from strangers to newfound friends, a community tied together by shared vulnerability and compassion. Feeling a wave of joy wash over him, Jason's heart swelled with gratitude. Each face was alive with passion, every spirit shone brighter. He realized that true success came not from business but from the connections they forged. They were all in this together. As laughter and warmth engulfed the gathering one last time, Jason squeezed Mia's hand and gazed around. This night would be one they'd carry forward, a reminder that in love and connection, they found their greatest strength. Together, they had sparked a movement, propelled by kindness that would continue to ripple outward into the world, and just as the conversation crescendoed into enthusiastic chatter, Jason felt an electric thrill course through him, a compelling force urging him forward. There might still be challenges ahead, but united with Mia and the community around them, he was ready to embrace it all with open arms. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss out on the next incredible stories of transformation and connection. This is the moment to show your support for voices that matter. Leave a like right now to help the algorithm share this story far and wide. And don't you dare wait not even one more second. Comment your reactions and feelings about this journey, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of kindness. Your support counts.